Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Gentleman Reviewer. Today I'm going to be talking about another fountain pen. As you probably realize, fountain pens are one of my favorite things, so I tend to have a lot. I don't have a lot of them, but I'm starting off reviewing quite a few of them. So today I'm going to be talking about the Nemosine Fission. I hope I'm saying Nemosine right. I can't seem to find anywhere on the internet that tells me how to pronounce it, but Nemosine seems to be pretty consistent with what I've seen with other video reviews, so if I'm wrong, please point me in the right direction and let me know how to properly pronounce it. So this is a pen that I don't often come across very often when I'm researching pens that I want to get next. It was one that popped up a couple of times. I just liked the way it looked, and it had some 50-50 reviews about. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it, and so I decided to give it a shot. The first round, my first time using it, I wasn't too happy with it. I got a lot of hard starts with it, I had to shake it, I had to dip it in water just to get the nib cleared up. I haven't noticed that too much this time around. I have noticed that a little bit recently. I went through a whole converter and then filled it back up, and it's having some hard starts lately, but I don't know if that's just because some ink got dried on the nib or something like that. So my first impression with this pen, this was my first screw cap pen. So it takes about 2 turns maybe to get it screwed on, but it does fit very snug with the body. Hopefully you can see there's almost no gap with it when it's converted. It has come loose just a little bit in my Padfolio sometimes. I've never pocket carried this, and I'll tell you why a little bit later, why I wouldn't pocket carry this pen. So I don't know if it would come undone in my pocket. I think it would, but I'm not gonna find out. I'd prefer not to have brown ink on my pants. So this pen is pretty heavy. I think it's my heaviest pen. I just have a Jinhao X750 laying around. This one is pretty beefy as well, but this one weighs a little bit more. This one is about 1.5 to 1.6 grams, depending on what website that I found, 1.5 to 1.6 ounces, which is about 43 grams. And the grams tends to be consistent. The ounces tends to be a little variable depending on the website. So as you can see, this one is the navy. It's pretty glossy though. It's pretty shiny. I don't know exactly what the material is. It feels like a lacquer, maybe a powder coated paint, something like that, likely over a metal body. I usually get a lot of my the way the pens are made through Goulet pens. This actually is not on that website, unfortunately, anymore. So I wasn't able to get a lot of the dimensions that I'm usually able to give on some of my reviews. So the grip itself, as you can see, is metal. It feels good. It's very smooth. It looks like chrome, but if you're riding for a long time, this metal grip tends to get a little bit slippery, especially if you're like me and your fingers get a little sweaty. I'm not sure if this was with the company I bought it from. I bought it from, I think, Philadelphia Pens or something like that through Amazon. But it came with this converter. It's pretty big, as you can see. It holds quite a bit of ink. And with an extra fine nib, that ink tends to go quite a long ways. I usually only have to fill this up maybe once a week or every week and a half, and that's if I'm writing in my journal. I'm doing some handwriting practice, doing those quotes of the day that I do in my Instagram, and yeah, so that it lasts a long time, especially with the extra fine is kind of the point. So I think I said this already, but with the heaviness, it tends to get a little fatiguing to write for a long time. I do prefer heavier pens, as I said in my Lamy Safari video especially. So posted, this pen is pretty gigantic, and writing it with it posted, it's super top heavy. I feel like it's going to slip right out of my hands and just wouldn't be great. I don't like it posted, so I'll often just set this to the side. But the nice thing about this one, where you can't do it with the Singularity, you can post this because it's got the threads right there. So let's see what else I'm going to. So getting to why I wouldn't pocket carry this pen, this finish, and I've seen this in a couple other reviews, it does tend to mar pretty easily. You're not going to be able to see it on a camera, but as I've mentioned in some other videos, the way I carry my pens is in a pad folio with a day timer planner in there, as well as an A4 pad. So it's pretty jam-packed, and this is put in that pen loop right next to the pad. So the binder, the metal binder, kind of rubs up against this, and you can see a couple dents on it. So I mean, if you're carrying this in your pocket with keys, probably wouldn't work out too well. I've also seen a couple other reviews where people say it gets scratched fairly easily. But again, it does seem to be fairly durable. I guess it would just really depend on how you carry it. So the nib itself, let's see, I hope you can see that. I hope it's focusing on it for you, because I really do like this nib. If it doesn't focus well in the video, check out my Instagram page. I know I have at least one post up with a decent picture of the nib. But it's got what looks like a butterfly pattern almost on the nib, with an N right by the middle hole right there, and then it says made in Germany on the bottom. So the nib itself is pretty gigantic. When I get you down to the writing sample and it's a little bit closer, I'll compare it to kind of like the picture I have on the written review, the Lamy Safari and the Pilot Metropolitan. I did pull out the Jinhao X750 because I remembered that this nib was pretty big as well, and I'll show you compared to that. It's actually comparable to the 750 in size. So like I said earlier, I have the extra fine nib. I'll even show you some comparisons to like a G5, or is a G2, sorry, and then a V5 and a 5mm lead, just so you guys can see what it looks like. But when I'm writing it, it's not very scratchy, which I like. I know a lot of beginners into fountain pens, when they get cheaper pens, they really don't like the scratchiness, especially of an extra fine nib, whereas a medium probably wouldn't be too scratchy. One downside to a nib this big, I often find myself, I tend to grip pretty close to the tip when I'm using just a general pen or a mechanical pencil, and this one I'll often find myself over gripping onto the nib, almost like that sometimes, ending up with inky fingers. Well, that's not a problem. I don't want to get ink on my clothes. Like if I just absent-mindedly wipe my hand on my pants or something like that, I prefer not to have ink, even though it's water-based and would probably come out fairly easily. So I think, let me just look over my notes really quick. I think I covered everything I want to do on this part. I'll switch over to a writing review after I tell you a little bit about my overall thoughts on this pen. So I do like it. It's probably one that doesn't often show up in my everyday carry. I carried it for about 2 weeks now, just so I could refresh my memory on what I liked and what I didn't like about this pen. Like I said, I am starting to get a little bit more hard starts with it. I don't know if that's because of the ink. I'm using Iroshizuku Yamaguri in it, so it's a nice woody brown that you'll see on the paper here in a minute, like a chestnut brown almost. Which, you know, I've never had problems with other types of that ink in the first place, so I don't think it's the ink. I wonder if the nib size is just so big, the feed is off, or maybe I just need to adjust my nib a little bit and have it write a little more wet. Could be extra fine, just that it's not getting a lot of ink to the nib in the first place. But it's also, so that's probably my biggest gripe with it, because I'll find myself sitting there having to shake it or rub it on my hand or just scribble a little bit before it starts writing, and that gets pretty annoying, especially when you're doing notes like I am. I usually do quick little notes, especially when I'm out in the community as a case manager. It just doesn't work out too well. So I would recommend this to a friend. It's a good pen. It is a little on the pricey side right now. I'm finding it for between 40 and 50. If I remember correctly, I bought this for 30, so it is going up in price. They don't have it on Goulet pens anymore. It is still on Amazon, so you got to dig around a little bit more. But all right, with that, let's get over to the writing sample, and that'll be all. Alrighty everyone, welcome to the second half of this review, where I show you how it writes on a variety of different kinds of papers. Again, I do like to focus on some of the cheaper papers, stuff that you might find a college student using, mostly because I use these pieces of paper when I was in college as well. And I also think that most of us, unless we're really getting into fountain pens, don't often find ourselves with a Rhodia, a Leuchtturm, or anything like that. So let's give it a shot. This is some no-name A4 pad folio or A4 pad paper. So again, sorry for the shadows. Still don't have the best setup for doing reviews like this, but here we go. So as you see right there, I did have that hard start. So it's the Nemosine Fission with Pilot, Shizuku, Yamaguri. So as you can see, it's pretty small line. Just for some comparison, let me show you a Pilot G2 like I always do. This one might be, there we go. Pilot G2. So you can see it's pretty thin. It's a lot thinner than a Pilot G2. And you can also see no feathering, probably because it's an extra fine, not really putting out a lot of ink. So this is my Rotring 300. Just got this today actually as well. It's just plastic, so it's a lot like the 600, just plastic version of it. If you guys like it, I'll do a review of that probably a lot farther in the future. And also, like I promised, let's do a V5. So as you can see, it's a lot smaller than all of those. I don't think I have any other pens that I pulled out for you just to compare. So the extra fine on this one is a lot smaller than any of the other pens that I have, even smaller than a 5mm lead. I wish I had. I don't have 3mm yet, but I'll be getting one soon. So I'll start adding that to the lineup when I do these comparisons for you. So it writes well on that. I've got some loose leaf paper to show you as well. This is again just something that you could buy in the bulk section of Walmart. Sorry for the ink showing through, but the paper doesn't work well if I don't have anything below it. So just as a pen test, I'll do some waves, and then I was like writing Nemosine. Can't write my end today. So it writes well on that piece of paper as well. Same type of thing, just in grid paper. There's a hard start again. So again, it's doing well on that paper as well. I've got a couple others, but I won't bore you with them. Actually, I just got this yesterday. This is a Jarbo dotted journal. I decided to start trying bullet journaling, but we'll see how that goes here in the future. So it does well on this. Does well on that, no problems. I have noticed with this one, it does go through the paper, like not go through it, but you can see it on the other side. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but those are some of my notes on the other side of the paper. And I wrote it with the same ink, so kind of sucks that it does that, but this is another thing that I'll review in a little bit. It's a cool journal, nothing fancy, just plain black. Alrighty, so now let me show you the nib size compared to some of those other pens like I promised. So there's that. Hopefully, I think you can see oh, it's not focusing. Come on. There we go. Hopefully you can see the design on it well there. Again, if you can't, I've got some good pictures up on my Instagram. So there's the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari. So you can see it's pretty good size nib, pretty gigantic. And then just because I had it lying around, here's the Jinhao 750. So it's just slightly bigger than the 750. So cool. Last but not least, if I can find where my cap went among all my other fountain pen caps, I figured this would be better to show you a little bit closer. I do really like the pen clip on this. It's pretty sturdy. I'm not worried about this ever falling out of my pen loop. It's pretty thick and hefty as well. So if you're ever carrying it like that in a pen loop or using it in a pocket where you are utilizing the pen clip to hold it in, I wouldn't worry about it at all. Maybe if it'll focus, No, it's not focusing too well. I was hoping to show you some of those. You can see a little bit of scratches. There we go. Where that pad folio, or the planner in my pad folio, kind of nicked it. Again, it's not anything super noticeable that you're going to see from far away if you're using it, like laying it out on a desk, or if someone's just looking at it from a little bit farther away. But I tend to notice those things on my pens. I'm sure most of us that are into fountain pens do as well. But with that, that's my Nemosine Fission review. Please comment below if there's anything you think I'd miss or that you'd like me to see me do with fountain pens to give a more thorough overview. Again, I hope you guys liked the review. Please like and subscribe and help me grow my channel. I'm really new at this, so it would be greatly appreciated. Happy New Year, guys. I'll see you at another video next year.